from the investment standpoint, I've got to say that I did flirt with the idea 20 years ago. And I did even spend a good 6 months full time on there with my 4 or 5 co-founders. The investment just did not work. What I learned from that was we didn't have great clarity and agreement on which way that business was going to go and how the business model and the monetization was going to work. So that was that. But then, sort of about 10 years later, then I started the company I co-founded, and now I have 6 current investments. When people look at the list of current investments, and I hope you can read the font on the right where it says Baby Destination, Buddi-Health, all the way down to Fitbark. Those 6 current investments, they are all in different fields. And when I talk about this to some people, they say, wait a minute, you're not a pharmaceutical investor. You're not focusing on steel or consumer marketing. You're going all over the place. I said, damn right I'm going all over the place. Because for me, the industry and the sector, and if you like, the idea is secondary. For me, the focus is betting on the jockey. I guess you've heard this expression, you bet on the jockey, not on the horse. Meaning that the horse is the context, the market, the idea, lots of other things, but the jockey is the founder. It's the person or the 2 or 3 people who are the founders, and that's what I do. I focus on who and what they are, and I invest on them if it makes sense to me. The problem is doing that requires an extended amount of time to both assess and take the decision to invest. So just jumping to the right, like in Baby Destination, I knew the lady who launched this. She worked for me at one of my consulting, freelancing jobs at General Motors Asset Management. And man, she was so smart at Excel, at Visual Basic, at statistics, at mathematics, at financial mathematics, at bond analytics, at the whole general business of equity and how equity markets work. So we were doing some portfolio analytics, and she was in my team for 3 years. Then she left, became an analyst, and became a portfolio manager. Was the youngest person over there to manage a portfolio of $250 million. So that's what she did. Her and her husband, they got fed up. They were in Manhattan in New York, living a very busy life, a good life, and something happened in their life, and they said, no, we're not continuing. So they dropped both their jobs. I mean, together they were earning 7 figures. They left all of that, went back to India to launch this thing, Baby Destination. That the lady was a new mother. She encountered a whole bunch of problems, felt the need that there was an absence in India for a service, and she developed that idea for the service. She got me on as a mentor very early on. I did not chase her. She found me because she knew I'd be doing stuff in games, which was in India. And she said, I'm going to be going to Delhi, and here's what I want to do. So I mentored her. It took a full 12, almost 18 months before I put my first money in there. And as part of that, as part of the assessment and learning, I wanted to see where they fail and what screw-ups they do, which of course they did. And it's not just the fact that they did a screw-up, it's how they then reacted to the screw-up and what they did. And all along the way, it was check, check, check. It's like absolutely right what she did. And her husband, they made a very strong team. And that's how that happened. And now they are, they're not at break even by any means, but they're getting some revenue. They've got, I think, 3 million Facebook hits, 50,000 users. I can't remember the numbers, but it's definitely on a very good track. And the interesting thing is they've done that without a huge marketing spend. The model today is you've got a big budget for marketing, and you spend on Google Analytics and Facebook ads and all of those things. And then hopefully that triggers into many more hits and many more numbers that you need for your business. They've done it without doing that. The next one, again, I was lucky in the sense that this fellow, who is the founder of Buddi-Health, he came to me. And the way he came to me was he first reached to my wife, who had a lot of corporate experience in real-time data and business intelligence and all that other stuff. He was doing a data science play for analytics and analysis and all that stuff relating to several sectors. So my wife then had to move on, and but we liked the guy, and this guy then wanted me to mentor him, which I did, and it took another 6 months of getting to know him, and I put money in him. This is a healthcare company. It's a very complicated play. There is some uniqueness to what he has. It's a very busy area, and the big boys are there. But him with his team of 50 people in India, they have finally made some breakthrough, and it's been an awful hard slog. We've raised about $1.5 million through angel money, and we're waiting to get the big institutional money coming in here. The next one I spoke about, the first three companies listed there are where I invested at a seed level. So seed investments are much more risky, but the returns are much higher. Returns can be 50x, can be much more than 50x. The other investments, the pre-seed Series A investments, they can also jump, but I've made three at a later stage, and I would say out of these three, Resolute Innovation has the founder who I feel is always on. The first three, the founders are always on, and they've got that burning desire. The Resolute Innovation guy is also in that category. The other two, APDS, I think there's a bit of lifestyle play in there. The founder and his wife, they're the founders. They're both involved in the business. They're in their 40s and 50s. They don't have the same burning desire in their sense, in the sense of people who are in their 20s. They have commitments and they have a lifestyle. So that kind of background to their requirements makes their decision making on some of the hard decisions a little trickier. So it's a different story, but it's an interesting idea. It's education for prisoners and secure tablets that are used to reduce recidivism, where people who are leaving prison, let's find a way that they don't end back in prison. Well, one of the ways is to give them some hope of a life and a job, and that's what this guy is doing. So excellent cause. A lot of people have bought into it because it's sort of a public sector client base. I mean, there are a lot of private prisons in the USA, so those have been hit, but a lot of the state prison systems, they take their sweet time in deciding. So there have been a bunch of issues here, but still an investment that has not failed. I said in my opening slide, 90% fail. Well, at the moment, after all these years in, none of these have failed, and they might fail. Who knows? But so far, it's working. Fitbark is an interesting idea. You have a dog, you go to office, you want to know what your dog is doing. Well, buy this $30 Fitbark. This Fitbark thing is a little collar that gets put to the dog. It's got an accelerometer, it's got Wi-Fi connections, and it's tracking your dog's movements all the time. And you get them on your iPhone. A pretty simple idea. You would expect a lot of competition. But a big high here was where they made a breakthrough into Target. So this thing is now being sold in Target. So that's also doing very well. So just some thoughts on who I invested in and how that investment came about. The post-seed investment is one of the toughest things to do. Basically, getting others to believe in the jockey that I've selected and believe in the plan. That is not easy. You'll get all kinds of objections and questions and so on. And sure, that has been a challenge. But you keep at it and it works. The last point is actually very important. As an investor, I need to know when to come in and intercede and give guidance and help and when to disappear. There are definitely moments when I need to disappear. Like just 2 days ago, I got an email from the lady running Baby Destination, and she sent me photographs of the new office they moved into. It's a nicer office, it's bigger, it's for 20 people, the team size is 11. And I said, fantastic, great pictures. And I just made some comments. there was nothing that I could have contributed to that decision. I know that when I get the cash flow statements, I saw there's a bump in the rental line. Costs are going up. Some of the money I put in and others is going to go for that. It's not for me to question their choices on, how many air conditioners they put in, how many laptops. And like this, as a person who gets detailed reports and so on, the investor really needs to know when the guidance is helpful and going to be useful and when it's just a complete distraction or a waste of time. And I think in the main, I've tried to respect that. I'm sure there are moments when I have not done that, but it's just a point that I'm sharing that investors need to not be aware of. So, okay, so in terms of the how-to side, I'm not going to go into this too much, but just looking at a couple of things. Not only the idea, and you've got to be able to prove that it will make money, but the business model bit means how is the thing going to make money? What's the monetization? So in the early days, web advertising was a big thing. Then it's well, you've got to have content. You sell for content. Then you have membership. Then you have transactions, and it goes on and on and on. There are so many different ways, and guess what? The online startups, they have a bigger challenge because there's much more competition. If you're kind of selling hard products, like yes,